I've always considered myself to be a simple guy, not in the sense of being dull or uninteresting, but I'm the kind of person who likes to keep things uncomplicated. I enjoy a quiet life, staying under the radar, and avoiding unnecessary drama. But, for some reason, I've always had this nagging feeling that something wasn't right in my marriage with Sarah. It wasn't that we fought constantly or had any major issues. It was more like a constant, quiet tension that hung in the air. Our days had started to feel monotonous, and I guess I was looking for a way to break free from the routine, to add some excitement to our lives. At least, that's what I told myself when I thought of the idea. It all started with an innocent joke. I had been watching a late-night comedy show, and there was a prank they had pulled on someone that was so absurd, I couldn't stop laughing. It wasn't even a good prank, but it got me thinking, what if I did something like this to Sarah? I thought it would be fun, a way to spice up our dull evenings. Nothing crazy, just something to make her laugh and bring a little spark back into our relationship. So I planned it out. A simple, harmless prank. The idea was this. I'd pretend I had planned a surprise trip for us, somewhere exotic and far away. I'd even go as far as creating fake booking confirmations and setting up a fake itinerary. It would be a totally over-the-top surprise. And, of course, the best part would be the look on Sarah's face when she realized that it was all a joke. It's not that Sarah didn't appreciate humor. She loved a good laugh just as much as I did. But I wasn't prepared for the reaction that came next. The plan was simple. I'd casually bring it up during dinner one night, acting like it was no big deal, that we were going to pack our bags and leave for a weekend away. I had the whole thing rehearsed. I'd even made sure to have the fake flight confirmation ready to show her when she got home from work. When she walked in that evening, her face lit up. It was one of those rare moments when she seemed genuinely happy, a contrast to how things had been between us lately. It was clear she was looking for something to take her mind off the stress at work, and I was ready to deliver. "Hey, babe," I said, casually scrolling through my phone. "Guess what I did today?" She smiled, setting her purse down on the kitchen counter. "What? Tell me." "I booked us a weekend getaway. Just you and me. We're going to Bali." She laughed, thinking I was joking. "Yeah, right. Bali. Seriously?" I showed her the phone with the fake flight confirmation on the screen. The look on her face shifted. At first, she was confused, thinking I was messing with her. But then, she saw that I wasn't smiling. I thought she'd burst out laughing any second, but she didn't. Instead, she slowly set her purse down, her face becoming serious. "Are you kidding me?" she asked, her voice flat, like I had just broken some unspoken rule. "You seriously booked a trip without telling me? You're really going to surprise me with this?" I thought she was overreacting, but I could see the flicker of concern in her eyes. I laughed nervously, ready to say it was all a joke, but something about her expression stopped me. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't even smiling. "Sarah, it's just a joke. I thought you'd think it was funny," I said, my voice faltering. But she didn't laugh. Instead, she stood there, staring at the screen, her face pale. Her lips trembled slightly as she processed what I had just done. And then, she said something I didn't expect, something that would echo in my mind for weeks to come. "You think that's funny? You really think pretending to book a trip is funny?" The tone in her voice was cold, distant. It wasn't the playful teasing I had hoped for. It was like I had crossed a line, one I didn't even know existed. "I thought you'd be excited, babe," I said, trying to laugh it off. But her eyes narrowed, and she turned away. "I need a minute," she muttered, walking away toward the bedroom. I was left standing there, unsure of what had just happened. I had planned this as a harmless prank, but it seemed like I had just broken something fundamental. The lightheartedness of the moment evaporated, and suddenly I was alone with a sinking feeling in my stomach. I didn't realize it at the time, but that moment, that small, stupid joke, would be the turning point. I thought I was just trying to add some fun to our relationship, but I had triggered something deeper. What started as a harmless prank had already started to chip away at the foundation of our marriage. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at the empty doorway where Sarah had walked out. I thought maybe she just needed some space, that she would come back in a few minutes, laugh, and tell me how ridiculous I was being for overreacting. But she didn't. The minutes dragged on, and a sense of unease settled in my chest. I kept telling myself it was just a small joke, a harmless prank. How could she be so upset over something so trivial? I tried to shake it off and walked into the kitchen to make us dinner, hoping that maybe cooking something nice would break the tension. I set the table, opened a bottle of wine, and started chopping vegetables, but my mind kept wandering back to her reaction. Was it just me, or did it seem like something else was bothering her? This wasn't the first time Sarah had been distant, but something felt different this time. Around an hour later, Sarah walked back into the kitchen, her face still pale, her eyes avoiding mine. She didn't look angry, but there was something else there, something I couldn't quite place. I was ready to apologize and tell her it was all just a joke, but I hesitated. I wasn't sure what to say anymore. "Tom," she said quietly, her voice shaky. "I don't know what you were thinking, but this isn't funny." I set the knife down slowly, wiping my hands on a towel. I thought you'd laugh, Sarah. It was just a joke, really. I thought we needed a little excitement." She took a deep breath, trying to keep her composure, but I could see the frustration in her eyes. "Excitement? Is that what you think this is? You don't just make decisions like that for me, Tom. You don't pretend like we're going somewhere when we're not. You don't mess with something so important." The word stung, though I couldn't quite understand why. I had done pranks before, small harmless ones, tricking her into thinking I had burned dinner or hiding her phone as a joke, but this felt different. There was something about her reaction that cut deeper than I had anticipated. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," I said, my voice lowering. "I thought it would lighten things up, make us feel like we're not stuck in this routine." She shook her head slowly. "Do you even get it? Do you understand why this isn't funny?" She walked over to the table, staring at the empty wine glass, but not picking it up. "You think you can fix things with jokes, but all you're doing is making things worse. It's like you're not even listening to me anymore. You're just throwing random surprises at me, thinking I'll go along with it." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to apologize again, but another part of me felt confused. Was it really just about the prank? I had expected her to laugh, to brush it off, but this reaction seemed to go deeper than I could see. Maybe there was something I hadn't noticed. "I don't know what's going on with you," I muttered. "You're acting like I betrayed you or something." Her eyes flicked up to mine, and I saw something in them that I hadn't seen in a long time. Anger. But not the kind of anger you show when someone cuts you off in traffic. This was different. This was raw, hurtful anger that felt like it had been building up for a long time, and I was only just now realizing it. "Maybe I don't know what's going on with me either," she said, her voice trembling. "But I do know that I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. I'm tired of laughing off things that bother me just because you think it's funny." I opened my mouth to respond, but I had no words. The silence that filled the room was suffocating, thick with tension. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was a stranger to her. The person I thought I knew, the woman I thought I understood, felt so far away now. And it scared me. Without another word, Sarah turned and walked back to the bedroom. I stood there for a few moments, unsure of what to do. I didn't even know what was happening between us. Was it really just this prank? Was she really that upset over something I had done, or was there something deeper I hadn't even begun to understand? I picked up the wine glass, staring at the empty bottle on the counter. This wasn't how I imagined things would go. The joke, which I had thought would be the perfect way to lighten the mood, had completely backfired. But as I stood there, unsure of what to do next, a creeping feeling began to settle in the pit of my stomach. This wasn't just about the prank. Something had been off for a while now. Maybe it was just me being oblivious, or maybe it was something more. Whatever it was, I knew I couldn't fix it with another joke. And that realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Things were changing, and not for the better. That night, I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the silence in the room. The air was thick with tension, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something had snapped, something I hadn't even seen coming. The worst part was, I still couldn't figure out what had gone wrong. It was just a prank. That's all it was. Sure, maybe I had miscalculated, but how could something so small cause this much chaos? I thought about Sarah, how distant she'd become after the prank, how her eyes looked so far away, like she was seeing a different version of me. That thought alone kept me awake for hours. Eventually, the quiet became unbearable, and I got up to grab a glass of water. The apartment was eerily still, but I could hear the faint sound of Sarah's breathing from the other room. She was still awake, I could tell. I knew I needed to apologize. I needed to make it right, but as I walked to the kitchen, I kept replaying her words in my mind. "I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not." What did she mean by that? Had I been that blind to how she was feeling? Or was there something deeper, something that had been festering for a long time? I stood by the kitchen counter, staring out the window, trying to make sense of it all. The city lights outside felt so distant, like they belonged to a different world. That's when I heard her footsteps coming down the hallway. My heart skipped a beat, and I turned around to see Sarah standing in the doorway. She didn't look angry anymore, but she didn't look relieved either. There was something sad in her expression, something that made my chest tighten. "Tom," she started, her voice softer than before, but still firm. "I think we need to talk." Her words hung in the air like a warning. I wasn't sure what to expect, but the way she said it made it clear that whatever came next would be the beginning of something I couldn't undo. I nodded, nervously running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, I know we do. I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought it would make you laugh. I never imagined it would cause this much." "No, Tom," she cut me off, her eyes locking onto mine with a sincerity I hadn't seen in a long time. "It's not just the prank. It's everything. You keep thinking that if you throw a little humor into things, you'll fix it. You'll make everything okay again. But it doesn't work like that." I swallowed hard, unsure of how to respond. I was lost. I had no idea what she was talking about. "What do you mean, everything? I don't understand, Sarah. What's going on? Why does everything feel so off?" She took a deep breath, looking away for a moment, as if trying to gather her thoughts. "I'm tired of living in this constant cycle with you, Tom. You throw a joke at me to cover up the fact that we haven't connected in months. You think that a surprise trip or a little humor will fix things, but it's just smoke and mirrors. You're distracting us from the real issue, the fact that we've drifted apart, and you're pretending everything is fine." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I never saw this coming. For so long, I had been so caught up in trying to keep things light and fun, thinking it would keep us happy, keep us from facing the truth. But now, standing there in front of Sarah, I realized I had missed something important. I had missed her. I hadn't really listened. I hadn't really seen her. I didn't realize things had gotten this bad, I said quietly, my voice shaking. "I didn't know you felt this way. I thought we were fine. I thought we were happy." Her gaze softened for a brief moment, but then she shook her head, as if the words she had been holding back for so long had finally found their way to the surface. "That's just it, Tom. You thought we were fine, but you weren't paying attention. I've been telling you for months that I'm not happy, but you keep brushing it off like it's just a phase. You've been blind to everything that's been building up between us." I could feel the weight of her words sinking in. I had thought the silence, the distance between us, was just a temporary thing. I thought that if I just kept making her laugh, everything would go back to how it was before. But I was wrong. So wrong. "I'm sorry," I whispered, feeling completely defeated. "I didn't see it. I should have seen it. I've been too focused on keeping things easy instead of actually listening to you." She stared at me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke again, her voice steady but cold. "I don't know if saying sorry is enough anymore, Tom. I don't know if I can keep doing this." Her words hit me like a wave, washing over me with a force I wasn't prepared for. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to fix this, how to make it right. All I had were apologies, and they didn't seem to mean much anymore. I watched as Sarah turned away, walking slowly back to the bedroom. I stayed rooted to the spot, the weight of her words pressing down on me. This wasn't just a bad night, a prank gone wrong. This was the start of something I wasn't sure we could come back from. The following days felt like walking through a fog. I went to work, came back home, and tried to go through the motions like everything was fine, but it wasn't. I could feel the space between Sarah and me growing wider by the hour. The jokes, the attempts to lighten the mood, they all seemed so futile now. I wasn't even sure what I was supposed to fix anymore. How could I fix something that I couldn't even see clearly? The prank, which was supposed to be a simple joke, had somehow turned into the catalyst for everything that had been festering beneath the surface of our relationship. Sarah had withdrawn completely, spending most of her time in the bedroom or out with friends, giving me brief, curt replies when I tried to talk to her. She was polite, but it was like she was a completely different person. I missed her, the real her, but it felt like I was reaching out to someone who had already disappeared. The emotional distance between us had become a chasm, and no amount of apologies seemed to be enough to close it. I remember one night, about a week after the prank, when we were sitting at the dinner table. I had spent the whole day trying to plan something special for us, maybe a dinner out, or even a movie at home, but nothing felt right. Nothing could break through the wall that Sarah had built. She wasn't angry anymore, but she wasn't happy either. She just existed beside me. We ate in silence for most of the meal, the only sound between us being the clink of silverware against plates. I kept glancing up at her, trying to catch her eye, to make some sort of connection. But every time I did, she either looked away or stared off into the distance. It was like she was a million miles away, trapped inside her own world, and I couldn't reach her. Finally, after what felt like hours, I set my fork down and looked at her. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice quiet but firm. She didn't look up right away, but I could see her shoulders tense. "I don't think there's anything more to say," she replied, her voice flat. "No, there is," I insisted, my frustration bubbling up. "I know I messed up. I know I've been an idiot. But I need to understand. What do you want, Sarah? What do you need from me? I'm not perfect, but I'm trying here. I just need to know if there's anything left to fix." She finally looked at me, her eyes tired, almost empty. It was like the fire I had once seen in her had been extinguished. "Tom," she said, her voice softer now, almost resigned. "I don't know if I can keep pretending everything's fine. I don't know if I can keep waiting for things to change when nothing ever does." Her words struck me harder than anything she'd said before. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about the prank. This was about everything. Everything I had ignored. Everything I had been too blind to see. It was like the cracks in our relationship had been widening for months, maybe even longer, and I had been too caught up in myself to notice. I had taken her for granted, always assuming she would be there, that she would always forgive my jokes and my failures. But now, I was realizing that she couldn't keep forgiving me forever. "I'm sorry, Sarah," I whispered, the words feeling hollow even as they left my mouth. "I didn't mean to make you feel this way. I've been so focused on the wrong things, on trying to make everything light and easy, but I missed what really mattered. I missed you." She didn't answer right away. She just stared at her plate, pushing her food around with her fork. And in that silence, I could feel everything slipping further away. I had broken something I wasn't sure could be fixed. "I'm just so tired, Tom," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Tired of trying to make it work when it feels like we're both just pretending. I don't want to keep going through the motions. I need something real." The weight of her words sank into me. I felt like I was drowning in them, unable to catch my breath. What had I done? How had we gone from being the couple who couldn't stop laughing at the smallest things to this empty silence? "I'll do whatever it takes, Sarah," I said desperately. "I'll change. I'll be the person you need me to be. Just tell me how." She looked up at me then, her eyes no longer filled with anger or frustration, but something else. Something I hadn't seen in a long time, sadness. "I don't know if I can believe that anymore, Tom," she said softly. "I don't know if I can keep hoping for something that doesn't seem to be there." I didn't have an answer. I didn't know what to say. The realization hit me with brutal clarity. I had been so focused on fixing the symptoms of our problems, throwing jokes, surprises, and distractions at her, that I never bothered to address the real issue, us. And now, I was watching everything I had taken for granted slowly slip away. "I'm sorry," I said again, but it felt like the apology was too late. I could see the distance between us widening, and there was nothing I could do to close it. Nothing. She got up from the table without another word, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a growing sense of dread. I had no idea how to fix what was broken, and maybe, deep down, I knew it was already too late. The distance between us had already become something too big to overcome. The following days blurred into one long stretch of silence, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Sarah had already emotionally checked out. She still lived here, still moved around the apartment, but it was like I was sharing the space with a stranger. Gone was the warmth, the easygoing laughter that used to fill the air. Now, it was just a quiet, tense existence. The kind of silence that eats away at you until you can't remember when it all started to fall apart. I tried everything. Reaching out, apologizing, suggesting we go for a walk, maybe even a weekend getaway to help us reconnect. But each time, she either didn't respond or politely declined. It was like she had built this invisible wall around herself, and no matter how much I begged, no matter how much I tried, I couldn't get through. I started second-guessing everything I did, every word I spoke. Maybe I had said something wrong, or maybe I was just too late. It was during one of these quiet nights, around 10 days after the prank, when I decided to confront her again. This time, I was determined. I wasn't going to sit back and watch everything we had slip away without trying to do something about it. I had been giving her space, but the longer I waited, the more distant she became. I couldn't live like this anymore. Sarah, we need to talk, I said as soon as I saw her coming out of the bedroom. She was wearing that same tired expression, distant, like she wasn't even fully here. She froze, her gaze hardening. What's left to talk about, Tom? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, but I tried to stay calm. I know I messed up, but I'm not going to pretend like everything's okay. I can't keep doing this. I need you to talk to me. Her eyes flicked to the floor, and for a moment, I thought she was going to walk away again. But then she sighed deeply, like she had been holding something in for too long. You really don't get it, do you? She asked, her voice low but sharp. You think if you apologize enough, if you try hard enough, you'll fix everything. But you won't. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, but I pressed on. Then tell me, Sarah, what do you need from me? What do I need to do to fix this? She crossed her arms, leaning against the kitchen counter. It's not about fixing things, Tom. It's about something that's been broken for a long time. You can't just keep throwing empty gestures at me and think it'll make up for the fact that we've lost what we had. I wanted to argue, to tell her that I could still fix it, that we could work through this, but the look in her eyes stopped me. There was no fire there anymore, no trace of the woman I had fallen in love with. Instead, it was a quiet resignation, as if she had already given up on us. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine just because you keep apologizing, she continued. I'm not asking for grand gestures, Tom. I'm asking for something real, something that has been missing for so long. You keep laughing it off, thinking humor can fix everything. But I need more than that. I need you to listen, really listen to me, not just wait for the next joke or surprise. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. The truth was, I had been running from the reality of our situation. Every time things started to feel uncomfortable, I tried to make her laugh or plan something fun to distract us. I had been so terrified of facing the truth that I kept pretending everything was fine, even when it clearly wasn't. But now, Sarah wasn't pretending anymore. She had stopped holding on, and I was the last one to realize it. I've been a fool, I said quietly, feeling the weight of her words crushing me. I thought if I kept making you smile, it would make things better. But I see now. I've been ignoring you. I haven't been here with you. I've been so caught up in trying to make things light that I didn't see what was really happening. Sarah's eyes softened just a fraction, but the wall between us was still there. She wasn't letting me in yet. It's not just about being here, Tom. It's about being present, really present. I've needed you for months now, and I've been trying to get through to you. But you've been too focused on avoiding the real issues to see me for who I am. I can't keep waiting for you to come around. I'm just tired. The silence that followed her words felt suffocating. My throat tightened, and I struggled to find the words that could fix it. But there were no words. Nothing I could say could undo what I had already done. The truth was, I had taken her for granted, assuming she'd always be there, that we'd always be fine. But now, it was clear that things were far from fine. I don't know what to do, I whispered, feeling like a failure. I don't know how to fix this. Sarah let out a deep sigh and shook her head. I don't know if you can, Tom. And I don't know if I want you to. Those words hit me like a blow to the chest. My whole body seemed to freeze, and I couldn't breathe for a moment. It wasn't anger in her voice. It was something deeper. Resignation. A quiet acceptance that maybe this was the end of us. I don't want this to be the end, I said, my voice barely audible. I still love you, Sarah. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. I will try. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she just stared at me, her eyes empty, like she had already made her decision. And in that silence, I realized something that I had been too blind to see before. This wasn't just about me making up for the prank. This wasn't just about the things I had done or said. This was about everything I had failed to see, everything I had missed along the way. The cracks in our relationship had been there for a long time, and no apology could repair the damage they had caused. Maybe it's too late, Tom, she finally said, her voice trembling. Maybe we've both been too lost to find our way back. I didn't have an answer for her. I didn't have anything left to say. All I could do was watch as she turned away and walked back to the bedroom. And this time, I didn't follow her. This time, I knew she needed space. Space from me, space from everything. And for the first time, I was terrified that it was the beginning of the end. The days after that conversation were quieter than I had ever imagined possible. Sarah and I were still living in the same apartment, but it felt like we were in two completely different worlds. I would get home from work, and she would be sitting on the couch, barely acknowledging my presence. We didn't fight anymore. There were no more arguments. But the silence between us had taken on a life of its own. It wasn't peaceful silence. It was the kind that makes you feel like you're suffocating. I tried to fill the gaps in the conversation with small gestures. I'd leave her notes, write her messages, or make her favorite dinner. I thought that if I just kept showing her that I was trying, that I was present, she'd come around. But it wasn't working. I could see it in her eyes every time she glanced at me. She wasn't angry. She wasn't sad. She was just resigned, as if she had already made up her mind and I was too late to change it. I couldn't take the quiet anymore. One evening, after we had sat in silence for what felt like hours, I finally cracked. I couldn't stand it any longer. I needed answers. I needed to know if there was still a chance, or if I was just hanging on to something that had already slipped through my fingers. Sarah, I said, my voice trembling slightly. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending like everything is okay when I know it's not. I need to know, do you still want to try? Do you want to fix this? She didn't look at me right away. Instead, she stared at the wall in front of her, almost as if she was afraid of looking me in the eye. After a long pause, she finally spoke, her voice low and distant. I don't know, Tom. I really don't know. It's not that I don't care about you anymore. It's just that I don't know if I can keep hoping for something that's never going to come. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me, and I was struggling to keep my balance. You're telling me you don't care about me anymore? I asked, my voice shaking with disbelief. She finally turned to look at me, her face as unreadable as ever. No, Tom, I didn't say that. I still care about you. I always will. But love isn't enough when it's all you have left. We're both running on empty, pretending everything is fine when it's not. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep giving pieces of myself and getting nothing in return. I felt like I was suffocating. I had spent so much time ignoring the cracks in our relationship, thinking that if I just made her laugh, if I just kept throwing surprises and jokes her way, everything would go back to normal. But it wasn't normal anymore. We weren't the same people we used to be. We weren't even the same couple. I took a step forward, trying to find the right words. I never meant to make you feel like this. I never meant to push you away. I just thought I could fix it. I thought if I tried hard enough, we could get back to how things were. She stood up from the couch then, her face a mask of exhaustion and defeat. You keep saying you want to fix things, Tom, but it's not about fixing it. It's about knowing when something is beyond repair. Her voice was soft but firm. I don't think I can keep pretending like everything is going to be okay if we just keep trying to patch it up. I need more than that. I felt a lump rise in my throat, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. So what does that mean? Are we done? Is this the end? The words came out in a rush, and I immediately regretted asking them. I didn't want to know the answer. I didn't want to hear her say it. But the silence stretched on, thick and heavy, and I realized I had asked the question I had been avoiding for weeks. I don't know, she said finally, her voice barely audible. I really don't know. I don't think I can just keep pretending, but I don't know if I'm ready to walk away. But I can't keep living like this, Tom. I can't. It was like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders, but it felt like 100 tons had been placed on mine. Her words cut deeper than I had ever imagined. I thought I could fix it. I thought I could make her laugh again, make her smile, and somehow everything would go back to normal. But I was wrong, and I was too late. I'm sorry, Sarah, I said, my voice breaking. I never meant for it to get this far. I never meant to hurt you. She looked at me then, her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't say anything. She didn't need to. The tears were enough to tell me everything I needed to know. I watched her turn and walk toward the bedroom, the door clicking shut softly behind her. And in that moment, I realized that I had lost her. Not because of one joke, not because of one prank, but because I had failed to see the bigger picture. I had failed to be there when she needed me the most. I had failed to listen. And now, the woman I loved was slipping away, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it. I sat there in the living room, staring at the empty space between us, feeling like I had just watched the end of everything we had built. But it wasn't the end yet. The silence lingered, and so did the hope, small as it was, that maybe, somehow, we could find a way back to each other. But even as I clung to that hope, I knew deep down that it was already slipping through my fingers. The next few days were a blur of restless nights and broken moments. Every time I tried to reach out to Sarah, to bridge the gap that had grown between us, she was distant. It wasn't that she was cold. It was more like she had shut off a part of herself. The warmth that once radiated from her, that made me feel at ease in her presence, was gone. And no matter how many times I apologized, no matter how many gestures I made, it didn't seem to make a difference. She was slowly slipping away, and I could feel it in the way she looked at me, in the silence that passed between us, in the absence of anything that resembled affection. I tried to tell myself it was just a phase, that it was all going to work out eventually. But deep down I knew. This wasn't just a bad week or a momentary lapse in our relationship. This was the unraveling of something I had taken for granted for far too long. The cracks in our relationship had been there for months, maybe even longer, but I hadn't noticed them until it was too late. I had been so caught up in making everything light, in avoiding the uncomfortable, that I failed to see how much we were both hurting. One night, about 2 weeks after that last conversation, I came home late from work, hoping to find Sarah in a better mood, maybe ready to talk. I had bought her favorite flowers, lilies, and I thought maybe, just maybe, they would help open the door between us. But as soon as I walked in, I knew something was off. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, and I could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. I set the flowers down on the table and called out her name, but there was no response. I walked to the bedroom, my heart pounding in my chest. As I pushed the door open, I saw her sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, staring out the window. The sight of her, so still, so distant, made my chest tighten. I had never seen her like this before. It was like she wasn't even here anymore. I stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say, until I finally broke the silence. "Sarah," I said quietly, "we need to talk. Please, can we talk?" She didn't turn around. She didn't acknowledge me at all. It was like she was trapped in her own world, a place where I couldn't reach her. The silence that followed felt like an eternity, until she finally spoke, her voice flat and lifeless. "I don't think there's anything left to say, Tom," she said softly, her words cutting through me like a knife. "We've talked enough, haven't we? We've gone around in circles, and nothing has changed. You keep apologizing, and I keep pretending everything is fine, but it's not." I took a deep breath, trying to hold myself together. "Please, don't do this. I know I've messed up. I know I've been avoiding the real issues. But I want to fix this. I love you, Sarah. I can't let you go." Her shoulders tensed, and for the first time in a long while, she turned to face me. There was no anger in her eyes, no frustration. Just something that looked like resignation. A quiet acceptance that maybe this was how things were meant to end. "You can't fix this, Tom," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can't keep throwing apologies at me and think everything will be okay. I don't need your apologies. I need you to listen. I need you to understand that I'm not happy, and I haven't been for a long time. I've been trying to make this work, but I can't do it alone anymore." I felt my throat tighten, the lump in my chest growing bigger. I know. I should have listened. I should have paid attention to you, to us. But it's not too late, Sarah. Please. I'll do anything. I'll change. I'll be the person you need me to be. She shook her head slowly, tears welling in her eyes. "It's not about changing, Tom. It's about us, together. And right now, I don't think we can be together anymore. Not like this." The words hit me harder than anything she had said before. It was like everything I had hoped for, everything I had fought for, had just come crashing down in an instant. I had spent so long trying to fix the wrong things, trying to make her laugh, trying to distract us from the truth, that I had completely missed the most important thing, her. She wasn't the same person anymore. And maybe, just maybe, neither was I. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to push you away." She looked at me then, her eyes filled with pain, but also something else, relief. It was like she had finally made a decision, and in doing so, she had set herself free. "I'm not angry with you, Tom," she said quietly. I don't think I can keep doing this. I don't think I can keep pretending we're something we're not. I need to find myself again, and I can't do that while we're stuck in this." I could feel the walls between us growing taller with each word she spoke. I wanted to reach out to her, to beg her to stay, but I knew it was too late. The distance was no longer just between us physically. It had become something much deeper. "I love you, Sarah," I said one last time, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. "I always will. But I understand. I understand why you need to go." She nodded, her tears finally falling freely. "I wish things could be different, Tom. But they're not. And I can't keep pretending." And with that, she stood up, her back to me as she walked out of the room, leaving me alone in the silence. This time, it wasn't the kind of silence that made me feel like we were okay. This silence felt final. It felt like an ending. As I sat there, staring at the empty room around me, I realized that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you love someone, you can't fix everything. Some things just can't be repaired. And all I could do now was accept it. The next few days were the hardest of my life. Sarah and I didn't speak much after that conversation, but there was a finality to it, a quiet understanding that we both needed time apart. I spent my days at work, going through the motions, but my mind was always back at home, replaying every word she had said, every mistake I had made. I knew I couldn't undo the past, but it didn't stop me from wishing I could. Then, a week later, something unexpected happened. Sarah came to me. It wasn't with the intention of reopening old wounds or starting another fight. She wasn't angry, but there was something different in her demeanor. There was a calmness to her now, an air of resolution. She had been doing a lot of thinking, just like I had. "Tom," she said quietly, standing in the doorway of the living room. I looked up from the book I had been reading, surprised to see her standing there. She had always been the one to keep her distance lately, so this felt like a shift. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she continued, her voice steady. "And I've realized that I've been so focused on what's wrong between us that I forgot to consider what's still right." My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't speak at first, unsure of what she meant. But then she walked closer, sitting down on the couch next to me. "I know we've had our problems, and I know I've been distant. But I think we've both been avoiding the hard truths," she said. "I need to be honest with you, Tom. The distance between us wasn't just your fault. I've been holding back too. I've been scared of facing what was happening, scared of losing myself in this relationship. But I've realized that I can't just run from it. I want to try again, but I need to know you want that too." Tears welled up in my eyes as I reached for her hand, feeling the weight of everything we had been through. "I do. I want to try. I don't want to lose you, Sarah. I'm sorry for everything I did wrong. I've been so focused on fixing the little things that I missed the bigger picture. I missed you, but I'm here now. I want to make this work, no matter how long it takes." She squeezed my hand, a small but genuine smile forming on her lips. "I want to make it work too, but we have to do it together. We have to be open with each other, and we can't run from the hard stuff. It won't be easy, but I believe we can get through it. I believe we can rebuild what we've lost." That was the moment I realized something important. Love isn't just about the easy moments or the laughs we share. It's about the willingness to face the hard times together, to grow, to learn, and to forgive. Sarah and I weren't perfect, and we had both made mistakes. But we were willing to try again. We spent the following weeks talking more, listening more, and being more honest with each other than we ever had before. It wasn't always easy, but it felt real. Slowly, the distance between us began to shrink, piece by piece, until one evening, we found ourselves sitting together on the couch, laughing again, genuinely laughing, like we had so many years ago. I knew there would still be challenges ahead. Relationships weren't something that could be fixed overnight. But in that moment, I realized that we weren't done. We had a chance to start fresh, to build something stronger than before. And that was enough. For the first time in a long time, I truly believed that we could make it. Together.